hunt down narco-terrorist speedboats. We'll also look at how helicopters have an advantage over an MQ-9 Reaper drone in hunting narco submarines, all in the video ahead. But first, let's look how these naval vessels and aircraft work together to hunt down their targets. Amphibious warships, destroyers, and MQ-9 Reaper drones operate in a coordinated manner to strike narco-terrorist boats near Venezuela. The warships and destroyers act as command centers and launching platforms, deploying helicopters and surface-to-surface missiles for direct attacks. Meanwhile, MQ-9 Reaper drones can also carry and launch precision-guided missiles to strike vessels. This integrated approach enables rapid detection, tracking, and multi-directional strikes, combining the firepower and mobility of ships and helicopters with the extended reach and endurance of drones. Together, they effectively intercept and eliminate narco-terrorist boats. Now let's take a closer look at the strategy and basic process of how MH-60 Seahawk helicopters are launched from amphibious warships. The operation begins in the Amphibious Ships Command Center, where intelligence about suspicious vessel activity is gathered and analyzed. Once a potential target is identified, preparations for launch begin. The MH-60 Seahawk takes off vertically or with a short rolling start from the ship's flight deck. Its folding rotor blades and compact design allow it to operate efficiently in the limited space available on the ship. As the helicopter quickly climbs to an operational altitude and moves toward the area of interest, it begins its hunt for targets. But how does it hunt its target search and acquisition? Using advanced onboard radar, electro-optical and infrared sensors, and communication links with the ship and other reconnaissance platforms, the Seahawk searches the waters for fast-moving vessels believed to be involved in narcotics trafficking. It integrates sensor data with real-time intelligence provided by drones or other assets to enhance target acquisition. After locating the narco-terrorist boat, the MH-60 114 Hellfire missiles, which are advanced air-to-surface weapons designed to destroy or severely disable hostile vessels from a safe distance. These are used to hunt down fast attack boats. In addition to missiles, the Seahawk is armed with heavy machine guns, including the powerful .50 caliber Gauss-16 minigun mounted on either side of the cabin door. These guns provide sustained suppressive fire that is highly effective at disabling smaller boats which might evade missile strikes or in situations where missile use is not feasible. The machine guns also deliver defensive fire to protect the helicopter, enabling continuous pressure on hostile vessels during interdiction operations. Together, these weapons allow the MH-60 Seahawk to carry out swift and accurate strikes on narco-terrorist boats. Whether engaging targets with Hellfire missiles from long range or using precision machine gun fire at closer quarters, the Seahawk demonstrates unmatched versatility and dominance over maritime threats in interdiction missions. The MH-60 Seahawk helicopter holds a significant advantage in maritime interdiction missions due to its advanced anti-submarine warfare capabilities, which MQ-9 Reaper drones lack. Here is a detailed comparison highlighting these advantages. MH-60 Seahawk's advantage in anti-submarine warfare. The Seahawk is equipped with a dipping sonar system and can deploy sonar buoys to detect and track submarines underwater. Upon detection, the helicopter can launch a torpedo at the target. Once launched, the torpedo, equipped with its own sonar system, will actively track and pursue the submarine until it successfully neutralizes the threat. Naval and aerial surveillance tracked the suspected drug boat for several weeks as part of an intensified anti-narcotics campaign in the southern Caribbean. This surveillance effort combined multi-source intelligence with persistent drone monitoring to identify maritime activities linked to narco-terrorists. The vessel under observation was a 4-engine speedboat, a type specially designed for high-velocity trafficking operations. Such boats typically travel at speeds ranging from 40 to 60 knots, which is approximately 46 to 69 miles per hour. This is around 74 to 111 kilometers per hour when traversing open water. Once the boat crossed from Venezuelan territorial waters into international waters, U.S. authorities positively identified it as part of a narco-trafficker's operated smuggling mission, believed to be managed by the notorious Venezuelan criminal organization Tren de Aragua. Execution of the strike. Let us now examine how the strike was executed in detail. The MQ-9 Reaper drone responsible for the operation was most likely deployed from an amphibious naval task force. This task force included warships and marines engaged in both exercises and active missions, from which MQ-9 drones routinely conduct surveillance and precision strike activities. These platforms provide the necessary launch and command capabilities for such unmanned aerial vehicles. The MQ-9 Reaper, an unmanned, remotely piloted aircraft, tracked the high-speed speedboat from above, transmitting high-definition video and sensor data back to command centers and strike coordinators on the ground or aboard naval vessels. The MQ-9 has a maximum operational ceiling of up to 50,000 feet and can loiter in the target area for up to 24 hours, affording it the endurance required to maintain precise real-time tracking of fast-moving maritime targets. Receiving presidential authorization, the drone executed the strike by closing in on the boat. It launched a single AGM-114 Hellfire missile, a highly precise air-to-surface weapon capable of tracking and hitting fast and maneuvering targets with lethal accuracy. But how did this small missile could successfully track and hit the speedboat? Let's take a look at Hellfire missile tracking and guidance. The AGM-114 Hellfire missile is a precision weapon guided either by semi-active laser or millimeter wave radar. This means it can accurately lock onto and follow targets, even ones moving quickly on water, like a speedboat. The MQ-9 Reaper drone uses advanced onboard sensors and targeting pods to continuously track the boat, sending real-time information to the missile after it has been launched. The drone's sophisticated systems can calculate the boat's speed, direction, and maneuvers, allowing the missile's guidance to predict where the boat will be and adjust its flight path to hit the target. Speed and maneuverability matching. Hellfire missiles travel at speeds greater than Mach 1, over 760 miles per hour, 1,225 kilometers per hour, which far outpaces the speed of the boat. This allows the missile to quickly close the distance and make fine adjustments during its flight to strike a moving target. The missile's guidance system is designed to compensate for evasive maneuvers by tracking the reflected laser or radar signals bouncing off the boat. It continuously adjusts for changes in direction and speed as it hones in on the target. During the final moments, the missile locks onto the boat's heat or laser signature, greatly increasing the likelihood of a precise, successful hit even though the boat is moving fast across the water. Combined drone and missile capability. The MQ-9 Reaper's ability to maintain constant visual and sensor tracking of the boat provides the missile with necessary mid-course updates to ensure highly precise targeting. A combination of persistent drone surveillance, the missile's incredible speed, and active guidance makes striking fast-moving maritime targets, like the Venezuelan speedboat traveling nearly 70 miles per hour, possible and highly effective. The MQ-9 Reaper drone's continuous real-time tracking enabled the missile to accurately follow, anticipate, and destroy a fast-moving boat traveling at speeds up to 69 miles per hour.
At 2:30 p.m. local over the South China Sea, an American helicopter, something that made Beijing very nervous, their best attack helicopter to stop it. But the Chinese pilot didn't know he was about to make a career-ending mistake. 22 minutes while trying to intimidate the most powerful navy on Earth. This pilot would accidentally teach something Beijing never wanted them to know. The Chinese Z-10 pilot had been scrambled from Xiamen 28 minutes earlier with orders that basically amounted to, think of it as basically the Swiss Army knife of military helicopters, was busy tracking a Chinese Type 039 diesel submarine. The sub had been submerged for 48 hours to recharge its batteries. Diesel subs are like holding your breath underwater, and when you do, America is watching. Foreign military aircraft, the transmission crackled over the radio. The Z-10 pilot banked hard across the Romeo's nose at 500 meters. Just one problem. They were 50 nautical miles away from any Chinese territory, in international airspace, where America had every legal right to be. The Romeo's three-person crew, 2 pilots and 1 sensor operator, didn't even flinch, because they knew something Beijing didn't. Minutes while trying to intimidate the U.S. Navy, China was about to do something incredibly stupid. See, the Romeo wasn't just sightseeing. Those bumps and bulges on its fuselage, those are AN/ALQ-210 electronic support measures pods. Think of them as digital vacuum cleaners, sucking up every electronic emission, radar frequencies, communication protocols, engine harmonics. Everything was being cataloged. The Z-10 you see flying around here is what happens when you order an Apache helicopter from Wish. Built with leftover Russian design assistance from the 1990s, looks intimidating with its angular design, but so does a Toyota Camry with a body kit. Beijing's pilot fired 2 flares around the Romeo. This wasn't an attack, it was theater. the aviation equivalent of a chihuahua barking at a pit bull. The American crew's response? Directly at the submarine below. The message was crystal clear. "We still see your friend down there." The submarine, realizing it was still being tracked despite the aerial interference, crash-dived in a panic. It made so much noise, cavitation from the emergency dive, hull popping from pressure changes, that sensors across the entire equals destruction. And the Chinese pilot had just punched his own submarine's ticket. Beijing's pilot was about to discover something worse. Much worse. 18 minutes of failed intimidation. His fire control radar got a lock on the Romeo, meant he could finally simulate an engagement. That confidence lasted exactly 3 seconds. That's how long it took for Americans to stop laughing and flip a switch. What happened next was the electronic warfare equivalent of a nearby EA-18 Growler started blasting the Z-10 with electromagnetic energy using its ALQ-99 jamming pods. His lock didn't just disappear. The American helicopter appeared to split into 12 different contacts. Some were flying backwards, others were apparently teleporting. One showed up inside his own cockpit. What happens when 1990s Russian hand-me-down technology meets modern American electronic warfare? The ALQ-99 doesn't just jam radars. It's frequency agile, hopping across the electromagnetic spectrum. The jamming had already moved to 50 others. Next gave him goosebumps. The U.S. carrier strike group with their spy radars. That's like having the Eye of Sauron suddenly notice you exist. The Hornets were already launching from the carrier deck. Not to remind Beijing that this Romeo wasn't alone, had the entire U.S. Pacific Fleet behind it. His pilot tried everything, switching frequencies, increasing power, even turning his radar off and on again. Nothing worked. The Romeo's electronic warfare suite operates across multiple bands simultaneously, creating what specialists call the full-spectrum dominance experience. The American crew remained so calm, they were probably discussing lunch plans. They knew in exactly 4 minutes, the situation would get even more embarrassing for China. The dipping sonar at the submarine below, still being tracked despite all the aerial interference, was now making desperate evasion turns. Each turn created more noise. Pilot wasn't helping one bit. Finally transmitted with the kind of professionalism that only comes from absolute superiority. United States Navy aircraft, operating in airspace in accordance with international law. Second was intelligence gold. It was staggering. Communication protocols showing their encryption was from 2003. Hadn't updated since buying the Russian design. Even the harmonics of the rotor blades, useful for identifying Z-10s from 50 miles away just by sound. He was about to learn why that was exactly the wrong move. The find out stage. Frustrated by his complete electronic failure, at this distance, he could see the American door gunner manning the GAU-21 50 caliber machine gun. Not pointing at him yet, but the message was clear. Now the real mismatch became apparent. The Chinese pilot initiated thumping, aggressive maneuvers designed to force a defensive response. The Z-10 suddenly began lunging left and right, pitching up and down in sharp bursts, like a boxer throwing feints to bait a reaction. Tried to shove the Romeo into a bad firing position, but the Romeo, built on the Black Hawk's proven airframe, can pull significantly higher G-loads while maintaining stable flight. Beijing's pilot was essentially completely one-sided. The Romeo's AN/AAR-47 missile warning system was tracking every aspect of the Z-10's movement. Maximum turn rate, 20 degrees per second. Climb performance, 12 meters per second. This data would later determine American missiles to intercept. Z-10 was providing its own defeat instructions. The Romeo's FLIR camera was recording everything in 1080p infrared. Every hotspot was being cataloged. Exhaust ports at 450 degrees Celsius. Transmission housing at 180 degrees. Pilot was literally providing a tutorial on how to destroy. He could tip the balance. He was in for another shock. The Z-10's 23mm cannon has an effective range of maybe 2,500 meters against ground targets. Against a maneuvering helicopter, lucky to hit anything at 500 meters. The Romeo's GAU-21 has an effective range of nearly 2,000 meters through the Z-10's cabin like tissue paper, which, given Chinese manufacturing standards, it basically was. By now, the Z-10's warning panel looked like a Christmas tree, on the verge of literally flying itself to pieces. The Chinese pilot felt the stick fighting him, but running meant court-martial. He switched the warnings to silent and pushed harder for one last maneuver. He attempted radar locks 14 times. Each attempt was a gift to American electronic warfare specialists. The Romeo's systems logged every frequency hop, every pulse pattern, every desperate attempt to try the wrong password while you write down each attempt. When Beijing's pilot attempted laser designation with his electro-optical, identified the exact model and software version. This meant America now knew how to jam not just helicopter, but every Chinese vehicle using the same systems. One helicopter encounter just compromised an entire generation. Z-10's engines were running at 105% maximum continuous power, creating an infrared bloom 40% brighter than normal operations. Documented this in exquisite detail. Future American missiles, Z-10 pushes hard, it literally lights itself up for targeting. The electronic intelligence collection was even more damaging. Every communication between the pilot was predictable. American systems could now predict and jam. Performance degraded visibly, hydraulic pressure dropping from overheating. Transmission temperature climbing into the red zone, was literally defeating itself through overexertion. At 3:42 p.m., sonar splashed into the water again. 2 minutes, he hadn't moved the Americans an inch toward his failure and decided ground control already knew. Lated 72 minutes of intelligence gold. Electronic warfare systems would know exactly which frequencies to jam. Missiles would know exactly where to aim. Tactical computers would know exactly how to outmaneuver it. This revelation makes the message to making knockoff iPhones.